Hello everybody and welcome to another bonus video here on the channel. That's right, you're not supposed to get another video this weekend. I decided to feed my babies, and today we're going to be going over a recasting of Lord of the Rings. Now, a couple things. There's many different ways you can do a recasting of Lord of the Rings. Try and recapture the characters as Peter Jackson envisioned them. That's not what I'm going to do. I am going to try and create a cast of modern actors working today, age appropriate now, who fit the characters the best possible in the books, in how they could portray them. So I'm not trying to find a person who can play Sean Astin's Sam better than Sean Astin, because guess what? No one can. Sean Astin killed that role and no one can beat him. So I'm making it a little bit easier on myself, and instead I'm casting people working now who are of the right age, who can bring the characters from the book to the screen. So that means an Aragorn who's a bit more gun-ho about becoming king. He has his sword, he's ready to go, and he wants to wield that on the throne. That's the difference. So let's go ahead and jump into casting The Lord of the Rings for 2020. So first up, let's just go ahead and focus on the Fellowship here. And we have the Nine: Boromir, Gandalf, Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli. We have the Nine. And let's go ahead and start off with Gimli. This is one I see a lot of suggestions thrown around for. And one of the big hurdles here is a lot of people who don't understand to capture the way they did in the movies, which I'm going to try and copy here, the right look for a dwarf. You cast a large actor, and then through trick photography, and stunt doubles, you make them look much smaller. The guy who played Gimli was a rather large guy, and I wanted to use the same effect here. I see a lot of people throwing around the Mountain from Game of Thrones. He might be too big. I don't know if you could actually do it with someone who makes a mug look like that. That actually could be pushing it, and I don't know that's possible, but I also don't know that guy's acting talents much beyond just Game of Thrones, and let's be honest, he didn't do a whole lot there. So instead I want to go with an actor who's also a very large man, but I am sure can bring acting talents to the table that could be a decent embodiment of Gimli from the books. I also see a lot of people throw out The Rock. No on that as well. I'm going with Jason Momoa, which, yeah, this is kind of like the big pop culture pick. I didn't just do those, don't worry. But I genuinely think, after seeing his performances in several things, Jason Momoa can do the kind of charisma Gimli brings to the pages, as well as having those more reserved, insightful things that just kind of Gimli sprinkles in and drops every now and then. That's going to be my pick for a Gimli, and feel free to disagree with me. I encourage you to do so in the comments down below, and I want you to as well. One final note on this pick though, I think Jason Momoa as an actor is more talented than a lot of the scripts he's been given, and I want him to have a Lord of the Rings caliber script to really show that off. A few actors I've actually picked here are people who haven't necessarily had performances that blow people out of the water, but they just seem like they're waiting for that script, and I think a Lord of the Rings movie is a very good vehicle for people to show the kind of range where they could have the humor of a Gimli, but then those more quiet, reserved, insightful, heartfelt moments that pretty much every Lord of the Rings character does have. Actually, a fantastic example of this, I can't believe I forgot to include here, is his work in the show See. I watched a few episodes of that, and while I didn't finish it, his performance was rock solid. If you haven't checked that out, you're a Momoa fan, go check it out. Now for Legolas, if we're gonna go with Gimli, might as well hop on over to our pointy-eared boy. I was stuck between two people, Eddie Redmayne and Bill Skarsgård. I ended up choosing Eddie Redmayne because after watching him in several performances where he just kind of shows an extraordinary range, with one dud performance in there, but I won't hold that against him, Eddie Redmayne has this look about him to a greater extent that I think embodies what we see for elves. Now keep in mind, all these people are gonna be made up to high hell. Like, I hate when I say like, oh, this person, they're like, they look too Hollywood. Yeah, the guy who plays Jon Snow looks pretty Hollywood too, until they put him in makeup and stuff to make him not look that way. So okay, Eddie Redmayne can look the part of Legolas, just put a costuming department on it, he'll be fine. But specifically his range of acting just kind of gives me confidence that Eddie Redmayne could be a decent Legolas and elf. I'm just kind of curious to see if he can bring the charisma, because I haven't really seen him in a role where he's bleeding over the top with charisma, and while I wouldn't say Legolas has the charisma on a level of an Aragorn, he certainly isn't lacking it altogether, and there's a certain confidence to him as well that Eddie's gonna have to bring to the table. I'm not 100% sure about that. Moving on to the next one. Let's go with the king. All right, the king to be Aragorn. There were so many choices that I wanted to cycle through for Aragorn, and I actually had a solid pick for years of an actor who I was like, he would be a phenomenal Aragorn, but unfortunately, he recently passed away, and that would be Chadwick Boseman. To me, after watching him in Black Panther and Jackie Robinson and so many other movies, I was like, holy shit. Chadwick Boseman would be an extraordinary Aragorn. He has the confidence as well as these quiet, reserved, heartfelt moments, the range. Overall, I think he was, like, if you're going to do a book version of Aragorn, he was an actor who I saw kind of assemble all the different pieces that would need to be there throughout his career. Unfortunately, though, it kind of hurts to say with his recent passing, he doesn't qualify for this video anymore, and that sucks. Just know, in reality, that was the guy I wanted for this, but a backup and one I'm still very confident in would actually be James McAvoy. Some people are going to point to, he's not tall enough, he's not whatever. We're already making tall people shorter, we can make a short guy taller. Tom Cruise has made a whole career out of it. But James McAvoy specifically is the kind of person who is just such a top-tier, high-caliber actor that I don't think anyone's going to go, oh, he can't do it. But for me, it's also the fact that he has played roles where he's had to be a mentor and a guardian, and he's done so to great effect. But even more than that, James McAvoy's physicality is something I really want to see brought to a ranger-type character like this. He can definitely pull off the confidence of, I want to go get this throne, I wield this sword, let's go there, and I want to see him in these battle scenes where I've seen James McAvoy in things like Split have a movement to him, just seem lethal. Let's see that brought to the point where he's actually just butchering people in a sense, or orcs, not people. Aragorn doesn't kill people often. And instead we can actually see James McAvoy unleashed in a sense where we put a sword in his hand and go nuts. And for our final warrior coming into the party, we're going to go for Boromir. Again, none of these were weak performances, but boy, oh boy, did I love the performance behind Boromir in the Peter Jackson movies. And casting a new one, I actually want to go in a pretty different direction. He's royalty, right? He's someone who can kind of come across like he's above it all, he's noble, but there's a real passion, there's a good man in there, and Boromir has more pressure on him than maybe anyone aside from Frodo in the party in a lot of sense. I mean, he's been put in a position where he kind of has multiple things pulling on him, and that internal struggle is something I want to see acted out and brought to a level that we saw Sean Bean do with the original Peter Jackson trilogy. I don't know if we're going to top it. Boromir's actually a pretty faithful to the book's character for Peter Jackson. I'm just looking forward to seeing an actor who maybe is a bit younger. That's just one appeal I wanted to go for, and for that, I've chosen someone who's had an extraordinary resurgence recently in the indie scene and is going to be Batman soon, and that'll be Robert Pattinson. I recently watched Good Time with Robert Pattinson, and holy crap, I know a lot of people point at Lighthouse as well, another amazing example of how Robert Pattinson has evolved as an actor over the years, and I would love to see him be this internally conflicted character, because, let's be honest, Robert Pattinson has kind of mastered the sitting there and looking tormented look all the way since the beginning of his career, so I'd really enjoy seeing him show his evolutions, his range, in a character like Boromir, who has these very genuine, I want to help achieve this mission vibes, but simultaneously is warring within himself and ends up having moments of weakness where the ring is able to get to him, where he attacks, he causes a betrayal in the party. I want that full experience, and someone who I think can deliver on both fronts absolutely would be Robert Pattinson, because we've seen him be a manipulative, vindictive in a movie like Good Time, but we also know he can be someone who can bring humor and charisma, similar to the way Boromir comes across in his best moments. So now, the Hobbitses. This, I didn't expect to be that hard. The Hobbits are extremely hard to cast. Because one, just visualizing actors being remade up to be Hobbits is like a bit extreme. On top of that, there's a very narrow age range for them. Early 20s to mid 20s at best, and I'm even pushing that with one of them. So I'm not confident in my Hobbit casting. Please let me know if you have any better ones in the comments down below. But let's go ahead and kick it off with Frodo. Timothée Chalamet. I watched some things with him recently to get ready for Dune, and he is an outstanding actor, and I am very excited to see what he'll bring for Dune. Paul, I have faith he'll be able to realize, but could he also do a Frodo? I'm not sure. This one I'm probably the most confident in of any of the Hobbits, but the one I'm least confident in is going to be Samwise. You really have to try and forget Sean Astin's performance to visualize anyone else in the role, and just totally go book, because Sean Astin is in that top tier of Lord of the Rings performances for me. So heartfelt without being corny. He's just believable frame by frame. You feel his heartbreak, and that's something I don't want to lose. And I struggled so hard. Who could fit this? I don't know. Like, just go back in time and grab young Sean Astin again? That's preferable. I ended up with Tom Holland, and Tom Holland's shown some great range in things I've seen him in outside of Marvel, and I think he could bring a different interpretation of the character. Would it be one better than Sean Astin's? No. I'm not even going to say probably not. I'm just going to say no, because Sean Astin made that character so much his own, and he was obviously so dedicated to it if you look at the behind the scenes material. So, gosh, this one's hard. I don't love it. I mean, Timothée Chalamet and Tom Holland together as Frodo and Sam. And Merry and Pippin. I went Dylan O'Brien, which I haven't even seen much of his stuff. Someone just suggested this on Twitter, and I looked at some performance stuff, and I was like, maybe. And then Jack Quaid, I guess. The Hobbits, I'm not sure on. We're going to move on from the Hobbits because I really don't know. Please, in the comments down below, let me know your picks for the Hobbits because I want better ones than these. Or, reassure me that these are good picks. Maybe they are better than I'm giving myself credit for. Either way, just comment it down below. I'll be reading through. And don't worry, I didn't forget about one more crucial Hobbit here. We have Bilbo, right? Bilbo's a very important role for Lord of the Rings, and one I'm not going to just let slip under the door. No, he's not necessarily a member of the party, but if we're doing Hobbits, I'm going to do Bilbo. Okay. I'm going to cast Bilbo, and that's going to be Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg gets written off as just like Shaun of the Dead hot fuzz guy, which don't write that off because those are some extraordinary comedic performances, but he's done dramatic roles and he's done them well. I really like Simon Pegg's vibe, and I think he could actually be an extraordinary Bilbo. I'm pretty confident. He's probably the most confident Hobbit casting I have here. Hi. Hindsight editing Daniel here. I'm now actually feeling Jack Quaid more for Samwise. I feel like that's a better fit. He has the level of sincerity that I'm really looking for. After season 2 of The Boys, I'm just feeling it. So I guess take Tom Holland and make him Merry. Pips is being ornery. But one final member of the party remains, Gandalf. Maybe the biggest shoes to fill in terms of performance. Ian McKellen was Oscar-worthy, in my opinion, in his portrayal of Gandalf. The eyes, the voice, the speaking of those lines that Tolkien wrote, he just clearly gave it all, and he understood the material on a level that was extraordinary. What actor is age-appropriate now and could fill those shoes feasibly in a more true-to-book? But he's really true-to-book, and it's difficult. But I went through a few. I saw a couple castings of Donald Sutherland, which maybe, he's shown some more range in his later career. Some people saying Tom Hanks, which, and even Liam Neeson, and I'm very much so against that. That's probably my least favorite of those. But I ended up settling on Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman is one of the chameleon actors of our lifetime. He's been everything from Sid Vicious to Commissioner Gordon, and just is completely able to change his appearance and demeanor. And I'm pretty sure if we handed him the role of Gandalf, Gary Oldman would be willing to do whatever it took to live up to it, because he is the kind of actor who's willing to read a source material and understand page after page after page in its utmost depths. He's an actor who will never fail to be as immersed as possible, and that is something you need for Gandalf. Gandalf is the soul of the Lord of the Rings in a lot of ways for me as a reader. And so an actor who's willing to, in every line spoken, really bring the might of this transcended being to life is crucially important. And I believe Gary Oldman has the best chance of living up to Ian McKellen of anyone I looked at. But if we're being honest, though, I just want Ian McKellen back. Can we get Ian McKellen again? I know it'd be breaking my own rules, but please? Now, we can't talk about Gandalf without going into Saruman. And I'm going to go with a pick that I actually didn't see on anybody's list. There were a lot that were constantly thrown out for this delicious villain. From Anthony Hopkins to Javier Bardem, many people had a lot of visions of who could bring the corrupted wizard to life. But I wanted to go with an actor who has nailed a villain performance that has stuck with me to this day as just being next level. He's been in Hollywood all the way back to Do the Right Thing, but recently he's had an absolute explosion for his career with his performance of Gus Fring. That's going to be Giancarlo Esposito. This man can give off a vibe when he wants to that just will put you on the edge of your seat. And when it comes to the rather dark path that Saruman has gone down, I want someone who has a physicality to them, who has those ticks and twitches that Giancarlo brought to Gus Fring so brilliantly to the Dark Wizard. I know I'm going from someone who played a meth lord to a Saruman, but hey, it works, and I really see it going in a powerful direction. There are going to be people who disagree with this one for a lot of reasons, but there's really not a lot of bulking at this guy. Even in a show that's a lit campy and schlocky like The Mandalorian, he was absolutely just popping out of the screen. He's going to be the next huge villain for a gaming franchise that's known for its huge villains, Far Cry, and they have an eye that I agree with. This guy, if you want someone on the screen who feels like a penultimate evil, is something you can't really go wrong with. Even Breaking Bad tried to top Gus Fring with future villains in later seasons, but none of them came even close. But what about Wormtongue? Should I just stay in the same camp here? Because I'm gonna be honest, there's one thing that's always bugged me about the Lord of the Rings movies, and it works for those movies, but I don't think it would for the one I'm envisioning a little bit, and it's just how evil Wormtongue looks in the— how did that guy ever get close to the king? I just don't believe that. No, someone would have been like, and just, I don't believe it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't, those movies are perfect. It's perfect for those movies. I would like someone who's a little more subtly coming across as evil, and someone who has an experience of being this liar, this deceiver. And I'm actually going to stick in the Breaking Bad camp and cast Bryan Cranston. I know I'm getting like a bunch of like dream wish castings, but let's be honest, it's a Lord of the Rings movie. And if a lot of these actors got a call like, you want to be in a Lord of the Rings movie, they'd be like, yes. Hi, Editing Daniel here again with a new hoodie. And one of the reasons I wanted to specify that I chose Bryan Cranston, it's like specifically the way he lies I like for my vision or interpretation of Wormtongue. I'm aware I'm getting further away from the books here, and I'm getting more into like my own adaptation of the books, and that's what this is. All right, let's just get over that. But Bryan Cranston, especially in Breaking Bad, was just so good at having this very human way of lying, where he got more and more desperate as his like— stop stepping on the keyboard, Pips. As he got more and more desperate to like maintain his wall of lies, and the more they got taken apart, it just became more frantic, and yet it never didn't feel like a man just trying to cover his own ass. And I really like that for Wormtongue, and that very human, desperate feel. So that is why I chose him. So we're gonna go there. But which actor is having his ear be whispered to? Who is the one being corrupted by Wormtongue? Who will bring our King Theoden to life? I'm going with another major dream pick here, and you can't stop me. It's Hugh Jackman. I don't know why, but the king that Theoden is, and in the book, he's definitely a bit more eager to help. He doesn't have the hesitations Theoden does. Once he's out of this corruption, he's more charismatic. I actually want to keep that Peter Jackson change, though. I want him to have those moments of questioning, helping Gondor, and things like that, and Hugh Jackman is the man to do it in my mind. And now that he's done with Wolverine, I don't know if he's that busy. He's doing a bunch of jokey commercials with Ryan Reynolds. That seems like you're not super busy. You were naked in that commercial. If you want to stop being that, you can be a king of Rohan. That'd be cool. You want to be a king of Rohan? You want to be Theoden? I think you'd be a good Theoden. Jackman is definitely a fan of being in franchise big name stuff, and I think it'd be pretty easy to convince him to do it. Why am I pitching this part of it? I don't know. That's not part of this video. Next casting. If we're gonna do the kings, let's go ahead and jump on over to Gondor and do a steward. Who will be Denethor, the man who eats the tomato like this? Did I include this casting just so I can show this gif a whole bunch? You're damn right. Here it is in a montage. Tomato time! And in terms of actors who can be this chaotic, you almost feel in danger being around them presence, Willem Dafoe. Like, absolutely. I would love to see Willem Dafoe as the Steward of Gondor. If you haven't seen him in some of his stronger performances, I highly recommend you do so. Willem Dafoe is somebody who can go from a 0 to a 10, and instead of feeling like a bad acting choice, he sells it because he gives it his everything. That's the kind of Denethor I want to see in this. Because the one in the movies, I agree, it was a really outstanding performance. I started this by saying that, but I would like some more I am the calm steward moments. Yes, he lost his son, and that's why in the movies right away he's coming across unhinged. I want it to be more of a slow, gradual breakdown, so that's why I'm pushing for this. Let's move on. Let's get another ruler out of the way. Who would be Elrond? Michael Fassbender. Don't think I need to defend that in any way, shape, or form. Everyone would be happy with Michael Fassbender as Elrond. next casting. So, while I was sitting here editing this, I had 3 more castings kind of just pop into my head here. The first of which is going to be for Faramir. Sebastian Stan, I actually think would be a good pick. He looks enough like Robert Pattinson that I think they could conceivably be brothers, enough to not bother people, and I like the energy he brings to the role of Winter Soldier, as well as several other things he's been in, so I think he'd be a decent Faramir. In terms of Arwen, I like Lupita Nyong'o for that. I think she has a great vibe in terms of like a fighter royalty, like I believe she's noble, and I also believe she can kick my ass, so that's 2 kind of like key things for Arwen. And then for Éowyn, that's more of a hard one. I saw people online saying Amy Adams, and I have absolutely nothing against that one. So I'll go ahead and just say Amy Adams for that, sure. And finally, Gollum. Gollum. Everything I said before about actors being impossible to replace, throw that out the window. Andy Serkis might actually be impossible to replace. If you're not old enough to remember, from like the year 2000 on to like 2005 to 10, there were so many Gollum ringtones, there was a Gollum rap song, there was Gollum merchandise, there was Gollum memes, just flooded the early years of the internet with Gollum stuff, and everyone was obsessed with doing that voice. I'm pretty sure everyone in my school was doing this all the time. The Precious, oh my gosh, the Precious. So who could possibly live up to what Andy Serkis did and has continued to do for mocap work to this day? I really don't know, man. I guess if I want an actor who's proven they're willing to physically go to the absolute extremes to embody stuff, you could go with like Christian Bale, right? Like that's a solid pick, and he'd probably bring a own new interpretation of Gollum to life. It's just, that is probably the most hard to replace role in my opinion. Some people are going to disagree with me on that. Some will say Sean Astin, Ian McKellen, Viggo Mortensen. But for me, I think Andy Serkis takes the cake there, and you can feel free to discuss in the comments down below. This video's just been for fun. I like doing these recastings. Let me know who you would have chosen for these roles in the comments down below. Did you love or hate my picks? Let me know. I'm curious to see what people are going to have to say, and like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. Have a good one, y'all. Peace. And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, Hellas Punk. I think that's how you're saying it. Thank you so much. Hope you're having a good one. Peace.